You know, lately finding that Pokémon magic has been trickier than finding a shiny, without the charm. It evolved into something completely different, something I'm finding increasingly difficult to connect with. And I don't know why. I mean, I know why. The games have become a shell of their former selves, relying on shallow gimmicks instead of depth. Caught up on the corporate machine spilling game after game. So let's rewind back to the 90s, when the Tamagotchis ruled the playground and Pokémon Red and Blue just hit the Game Boy. And then, pop culture just changed forever.
In the tiny pixelated screen of the Game Boy, there was a world where you would travel, battle, and collect these little critters called Pokémon. But hey, you don't need me to tell you what Pokémon is, you already know it. Everybody does. It's not just a game franchise, it's a freaking juggernaut with animated series, movies, card games, books, comics, and more spin-offs than I can count.
And man, as a kid, I was all in the Pokémon fever. The idea of capturing these elusive creatures and going on an adventure in a world brimming with nature was just so appealing to my childish imagination. But this isn't just nostalgia talking, it's a genuine hunger for the innovation that once defined the Pokémon franchise. But here's the burning question that kept me up at night. What if things could be different? This is Redesigning Pokémon. This design pitch isn't just a critique, it's a passion project, a manifestation of ideas. Trying to imagine a world where Pokémon didn't rely solely on gimmicks, but each new game did something meaningful to the franchise. So let's hit pause and try to figure out how we can fresh up some new experience to the games. So, basically what Nintendo did with Breath of the Wild. Luckily for Game Freak and the Pokémon Company, I already did that. Please hire me. This video took a long-ass time to make. And since that's not gonna happen, the least you could do is like this video and subscribe to my channel. No, I'm just a Pokémon fan with a game design degree. Tossing ideas for fun, you don't have to agree with me. This is YouTube, the internet, you already know how it works, so whatever. Recently I dived back in the first generation of games for a video that I made. Don't bother watching it, it sucks. But I took one major takeaway from it that I believe to be true for the second generation as well. And that's why I'm beginning this design pitch with its world. I know, groundbreaking, right? An open world Pokémon game. Nobody has ever thought of that. Except I really want to dive into how it would work and why. Back in the early days of the Pokémon games, the developers faced more limitations than a Magikarp out of water. So they had to be really creative in the game design. They had this really ambitious idea, but the Game Boy was like, nope, too small for that.
That's why Pokémon is a turn-based RPG, for example. The idea of crafting unique movements and attacks for over 150 characters was downright impossible. Heck, it still is. So, instead of drowning in a sea of sprites for every Pokémon attack animation, they took a different route. They made them take turns between attacks, threw in some universal effects that worked for every move, and voila! A solution born out of necessity.
Then you just whip up a master list of moves and each Pokémon dips into that pool and oh, that's why it's called a move pool. And as you will see, it was because of those limitations we are still stuck to those staples of this series. Anyway, where was I? Oh, right, the world design.
You can tell it was Game Freak's original intention for the world of Pokémon Red and Blue to be open-ended, because after knocking out Elite Surge, the third gym leader, you could go after the next gyms in any order, well, except for the last one. Sure, there was a bit of an unspoken gym order, cause levels don't flex with your badges, and how could they?
We're talking about 1996 game here, slapped together by a dozen of developers and duct tape.
But let's dig deeper into the meaning behind this very intentional design choice. Game Freak wanted you to feel like the master of your Pokémon destiny. It was your journey, your choices. A concept etched into the very design of those early games. And this philosophy wouldn't fade away, it kept going. Fast forward to Gold and Silver, and after a bit Morty, the fourth gym leader, and the gym order would open up again for you to choose on your own terms. Well, except for the last one, once again.
The very foundation of the Pokémon games was its freedom of exploration and the joy of forging your own path. But here's the rub. From Gen 3 onwards, Pokémon went on this linear joyride, stuck to the plot like a magnet.
You had to follow the script, with not much room for detours. Sure, you could pull a sneak dodge in Ruby and Sapphire, skipping Brawly and Winona, but that's it. And this linearity has been a stubborn little problem Pokémon just can't shake off. Even the newest drop, Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, which was a decent step in the right direction, kinda dropped the ball on the whole open world thingy. I say it's time to breathe life back into those principles and transform the franchise in this wide open wonderland, just like Skyrim or Breath of the Wild, a place where you can set the pace and chart your own course.
Well, I guess I'll have to talk about the cooperage in the room, level scaling. Yep, the latest release on the Pokémon franchise is still struggling with the exact same problem as the OG games, 26 years apart. But let's not kid ourselves, level scaling is not a one-size-fits-all solution at all. In a game as complex as Pokémon, where wild encounters and evolutions are on the line, we gotta tread carefully.
Every new badge you slap onto your trainer card is gonna make waves. Trainer levels, yeah, they're going up. Wild Pokémon, you betcha, but that's not all. Cause here's the catch, wild Pokémon aren't simply leveling up, we're actually cranking up just the max level and boosting the chance of bumping into higher leveled Pokémon.
Now I can already hear you typing, oh, that's just the alpha Pokémon for Legend Arceus. Hold on your great balls, we'll get there.
Picture this, you are wandering through the tall grass and suddenly bam! You stumble upon a wild Pokémon that's breaking the level cap. And okay, it's not every day, just enough to keep you on your toes. So, to sum it up, we are ditching the everything at the same level Boradon. Instead, we are tossing in a dash of unpredictability. From non-involved cuties to the occasional over-leveled powerhouse, or wild encounters will be turned into a real Pokémon parade the more badges you got. Not every nook and cranny in this Pokémon world needs to bow to level scaling though. Some places are gonna be tough nuts to crack. And it's up to you, the player, to decide if you're up to the challenge. And here's the twist. Isn't variety the spice of life? Roots don't need to stick to a static set of wild Pokémon. Let's shake things up a bit. Move the pieces around, keep you on your toes, never really sure of what Pokémon you're gonna find. Now, let's rewind a bit to the OG Pokémon games again. Early Game Freak knew something crucial. The world isn't just a backdrop, it's a character in itself. That's why, despite the repeated title graphics of the first outings, you can still remember so many places from Kanto and Johto. Seeds and Roots had their flair, their vibe. Fast forward to today, and despite all the tech advancements, recent entries are struggling to leave a mark. Sure, they're pretty, most of the times at least, but they are a shadow of their former selves, lacking life and things to do. And here's the kicker, an open world isn't just about size, it's about feeling lived in. We are going all in on making every corner, every route and every seat pulse with life. How? By populating our open world with interesting NPCs, each with something to say, side quests, hidden little secrets, random stuff happening all the time. Because let's face it, if you can't even enter a damn house, what's the point? Our world is gonna be a patchwork quilt of varied locations. Even if we reuse assets, no two forests will feel the same. We are turning up the diversity dial, making each spot a unique adventure.
Also, have you felt that recent entries are a little bit too polished and sterile? Yeah, I felt that too.
It's high time we shake off that showroom sheen and embrace the wild, unfiltered beauty of the Pokémon landscape. Remember the good old feelings in those early titles? It was you, your Pokémon, and a world full of obstacles to conquer. No hand-holding.
We are rewinding the clock, making this Pokémon world less modern, more grounded, if you know what I mean. But hey, a captivating world is just the start. How we interact with that world is the real game changer here. And let's be honest, Pokémon is in dire need of changing its world mechanics. Now I'm throwing this term kinda liberally. Think of it like the gears that make this road tick.
One example is the day and night cycle. No more real-time clock shenanigans, instead, we're opting for a shorter cycle. A trick borrowed from Legend Arceus and Scarlet and Violet. In Legend Arceus, a whole day lasts for 24 real-time minutes, translating to 1 hour in-game per minute, a standard for open-world games. But that's a little too fast for our Pokémon adventure, especially considering the time-dependent wild encounters. Scarlet and Violet had a bright idea though, setting the whole day at 72 real-time minutes, perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Time of the day will transform the wild encounters table dramatically, and yes, Pokémon will run the map freely, a la Arceus and Scarlet and Violet. No surprises there. But my fellow trainers, this is just the tip-top of the iceberg. How we, as players, interact with this game world is a crucial piece of the puzzle, and movement is the key. How our characters explore this expansive world is what really matters. Unfortunately, current Pokémon games fall short in that department. Back in the day, the Game Boy shackled developers with limitations, so the overhead camera, reminiscent of Zelda, Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, was the go-to choice. It made sense, it was the best they could do at the time. Nowadays, we've embraced full camera control, but Pokémon's current movement feels dated, almost as if we were still somehow stuck on the ground like it was the Game Boy. We can't even jump! Pokémon Sword and Shield had their issues, but Scarlet and Violet takes the cake as the worst offender. They've backpedaled from Legend Arceus, which at least gave us a taste of agile movement, letting our characters roll and leap, but we can't even jump!
For fuck's sake, just let us jump! The ledges from older games are nostalgic and all, but not being able to hop over a small obstacle is just archaic. I get it, restricting player movement is a design choice, making us rely on Pokémon for traversal, but it's a stupid one.
The sense of freedom is hampered, and the thrill of exploration takes a hit. I'm not asking for some crazy parkour shit. Just let our character move like Link in Breath of the Wild, or even Shulk in Xenoblade Chronicles. After all, if our characters attains a more active role, partnering with Pokémon to conquer obstacles will add a layer of significance to those interactions, elevating the overall gameplay experience. What's mind-boggling to me though is how Game Freak fumbled the ball with field moves since the Sun and Moon days. Sure, AGMs were a bit of a nuisance, but at their core, they showcase the teamwork between you and your Pokémon, tackling obstacles together. And I hate to sound like a broken record, trust me, but AGMs were born out of necessity. The Game Boy era could only offer so much, and the overhead perspective with AGMs was the best workaround at the time. But we got stuck with this so-called quote-unquote staple of the series, a relic from the past that refused to fade away, and as time marched on, AGMs turned from an asset to an annoyance, hogging precious move slots and refusing to be forgotten.
Fast forward to Gen 7 and they just tossed AGMs out of the window in favor of a helping system. Now instead of overcoming challenges with your own Pokémon, you're just calling this service and everything is done for you. Not the exact same vibe, am I right?
In Sword and Shield you get a bike that surfs and a taxi that flies. Legend Arceus just lets you summon Pokémon that aren't even yours, and then in Scarlet and Violet they hand you a legendary Pokémon that does it all. Lame! Where's the fun in that?
But here's the kicker. The solution is very simple, just field moves. Why should I have to teach Lapras Surf when you can already use it naturally? Imagine just throwing your Lapras Pokeball into the water, it pops up, you hop over it and you're surfing. No wasted move slots, no convoluted summoning method, just you and your Pokemon overcoming any obstacles your way.
AGMs also used to limit progress and guide the player, so why not tie Pokémon field abilities to the number of badges you've earned? Keep things in check without sacrificing the open world vibe. And as hilarious it would be to have a little Pidgey carrying you around through the skies like in old games, it wouldn't make much sense now.
Surprisingly, the only Pokémon game to kinda got that right was the Let's Go games. Go figure, right?
So here's the game plan. Make Surf and Fly endgame perks for bigger Pokémon. You only get to ride the waves or take to the skies when you've racked some badges, with some areas staying off limits until you are ready. As a reward, it's a smart move, keeping the map exploration on a controlled burn. Shifting gears to movement once again, Pokémon Legends Arceus nailed it. It's swifty and snappy, we are keeping most of it. Catching Pokémon was the real game changer. Borrowing straight from that, you can sneak up a Pokémon and toss a Pokéball. no need for a full-blown battle. But we can make it just a little bit trickier, not too hard, just enough to make you consider doing it. That way we can incentivize battling wild Pokémon a little, so it's not mostly gun. And of course, catching Pokémon will get easier as you get better Pokéballs and items. But here is the nostalgia trip. We are bringing back the badge boosts from early gems, with a twist. It's all about you this time. Easier catches, quicker throws, and boosted HP. Your toolkit for mastering the Pokémon world. And yeah, I meant the player HP, just like in Pokémon Legends Arceus. Even if your entire team bites the dust, you've got the power to rush back to safety and heal your Pokémon. Also from Legends Arceus, we are bringing back the concept of Pokémon in the role of enemies in this world. Yes, much like the Alpha Pokémon. Told you to be patient. Some will be aggressive, and if you are not careful enough, a game over waits you on the way back to a Pokémon Center, making you lose precious items and progress. Now, to counter the chaos of an open world, we're going to go with what Scarlet and Violet did with Pokémon Centers. They're not just confined to cities and towns anymore, we are scattering them all over the place for your convenience. Although, I'd prefer if they worked a little more like inns, instead of the kiosks we got in S&V. Now, how about we revive Sword and Shield's camp idea? This time with no Pokémon Ami replacement, no curry or sandwich making minigames. Let's keep it focused on what truly matters. Instead, we are drawing inspiration from Legends Arceus. Yeah, the bias is real. Imagining set up a camp not just for rest, but also for crafting and a safe haven, a checkpoint of sorts. About to face a challenging cave or jungle, and the last Pokémon Center is a distant memory? No worries, just set a camp before diving into the unknown. And these camps aren't just a little pit stop. They can be your personal base, like secret bases from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Seriously, those were great features and we're bringing them back from the shadows. Not to forget, Pokémon bonding is still a thing, but we are streamlining it from Pokémon Ami and crew. Just call your Pokémon out of the ball anytime and give them a reassuring pet. There is something special about watching your in-game avatar bond with Pokémon, less first person and more authentic connection. But hey, I might just be channeling a bit of that Legends Arceus vibes here. Oh, let's not forget Shining encounters. Scarlet and Violet fumbled this one again, and it's disappointing. Legends Arceus nailed it with telegraphed sound and visual effects for shiny Pokémon. Now, let's toss another S&V blunder into the trash. The portable PC box. Seriously, who thought that was a good idea? It's a game design nightmare.
You can deposit and withdraw Pokémon whenever, so you can swap a fainted Pokémon with one with full health. The new plan will be to strategize before jumping to the wild, carefully curating your items and Pokémon. You will get the chance to add a new captured Pokémon to your party, but that's it. It's all about your own choices, fully immersing you in this wild world with unscripted adventures.
Maybe you could unlock it as a late game reward via side quest or something, but even then, it wouldn't work inside dungeons or battle facilities. Speaking of which, gyms! We've touched on the badges and the gym challenge, but let's dissect it further. Here's a wild idea. I'm thinking of having more than 8 gyms. Don't freak out yet, hear me out.
Unlike the badges needed for the Pokémon League and level scaling will still kept at 8, but in this vast open world experience, a dozen or so gyms just feels right. And if you want to please your OCD, we could make it 14 gyms covering every Pokémon type with the Count Elite 4.
For the gym battles, it should be all about the show. Remember those crazy gym battles in Sword and Shield? Crowds going nuts? Yeah, I want that vibe back, making every gym battle feel like a big deal.
But hey, since we are talking about gym battles, we have to talk about Now, to keep our open world pitch running, we need to make some tweaks to the battle mechanics. Like seriously, I've been yakking how the turn-based thingy is a productive time all along. We are not stuck in the past anymore, let's bring Pokemon to the present for Arceus' sake. But fear not, I'm not ditching the turn-based battles, I like them a lot. We are instead injecting some 21st century vibes into it.
No one wants battles dragging on and killing the flow. Lucky for us, Pokémon Legends Arceus set the bar high with its lightning-fast battles. In Legends Arceus, battles are swift, from start to finish. It's all a quick affair. Move animation and every action happens in a snap. And enough with text boxes, let's get visual. In the gaming world, the golden rule of show don't tell also applies, much like in movies. Except visual novels, they get a free pass. Pokémon though? No need for all those text boxes. A full dodge? Show me a little animation. I scored a critical hit? Have a flash visual effect, please. Legends Arceus caught onto this, but with a few stumbles. We will be fixing that. Although, I want to be fair. The text boxes can be very nice for accessibility, so let's keep it in that option tucked away in the settings. We will also toss out the strong and agile styles and just maintain the seamless flow. What's definitely worth keeping from Legends Arceus is the shake-up to Sleep and Freeze. In Legends Arceus, Sleep got a makeover, now it's drowsy. It works pretty much like Paralysis, making the Pokémon occasionally skip a move. And Freeze got an upgrade to Frostbite. It's the chilly cousin to the Burn statues, nibbling away at the Pokémon's health each turn. Speaking of battle mechanics, let's just bring back abilities and held items. Legends Arceus felt like it was missing a bit without them, and they do add a layer of depth that is hard to ignore.
Let's face it, Sleep and Freeze are just annoying, putting a dead stop to the battle flow. And no matter how deep you got your head up VGCS, nobody likes stall tactics. Never did.
But let's not just stop there. I want to crank up the battle variations. Legends let us tussle with more than one Pokémon at a time, and that was a cool idea, but how about we kick it up a notch? Let's bring back 2v2 or even 3v3. Can you imagine unleashing a whole team of Pokémon to tackle wild encounters? Now that's a showdown. And remember that auto battle feature from Scarlet and Violet? Yeah, I like that. Let's bring it back, but better. What if you could have almost, if not all, your party out there in the wild, auto battling and collecting resources? But here's the catch. You've got to be careful, as Pokémon will not be usable in this state. Imagine strolling to the tall grass, feeling pretty confident and all, and suddenly a gang of high-level wild Pokémon ambushes you. You might find yourself in a real tight spot, risking a good old game over if almost your entire team's out there.
Ever since X and Y rolled up with Mega Evolutions, it's been one flash gimmick after the other. Sure, they were kinda cool at first, but nowadays it feels like they are kinda throwing just to mask how shallow the game experience is. Plus, most of these gimmicks are a one-time deal, vanishing the next installment anyway. Let's skip all the spectacle and just go back to basics of the thing that started Pokémon in the first place. Plain and simple Pokémon battles.
Instead, I'm all about giving some love to our old Pokémon in dire need of a makeover. What we really need is a deep dive into every single Pokémon, carefully balancing their stats, moves, and heck, even their typings if needed. We're talking a complete overhaul and making sure we avoid that nasty power creep pitfall. But, and this is a big but, we are flipping the script on the experience system. In an open world game like this, we would be hitting level 100 in a flash. We are slamming the brakes on the experience gain, and we are going for the slow and steady route. Instead, our Pokémon will be learning moves every other level, or evolving sooner. We gotta keep the player progression feeling sweet at the end of the day. Now, let's talk about relearning moves. Enough with the running around, hunting for hard scales or whatever, and dealing with random NPCs. We are keeping it smooth and simple, taking directly from Pokémon Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet. Relearning moves straight from the party menu, easy and peasy.
Oh, and the XP share? Say goodbye to it. I don't hate it, like some purists do, I just think we need to spread out the experience gain as thin as we can. I would throw, however, it as an accessibility option for a good margin as an easy mode of sorts. I don't know, I just like the idea of being able to choose if I want that or not.
And for you competitive trainers out there, EVs and IVs are staying put. In fact, I will even throw in a battle facility somewhere, a place where you can super train your Pokémon, no sweaty. Now on to breeding. Taking a leaf from Scarlet and Violet's book, we're making it happen at our camp instead of the picnics. But say hello to incubators, taking a cue from Pokemon Go. Yeah, I bet you didn't see that coming. It would work just like those berry pots from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, letting you keep tabs on your eggs. Eventually, you will be able to expand the number of incubators you have, never waste a slot in your party.
Oh, and one more thing, I've got this little pet peeve. Can we, for the love of Arceus, just let Pokemon evolve mid-battle? That would be so cool. Pokémon is a social gaming experience, rooted in Satoshi Tajiri's bug collecting and trading, which inspired the series.
This spirit continued with the split game versions and trade evolutions, using the Game Boy Link cable. The 4th generation brought online capabilities, breaking down boundaries and allowing limitless player interaction. And Scarlet and Violet enhanced multiplayer even more with the Club Union, a co-op mode allowing friends to visit each other's game world, an awesome concept. At least in theory. Club Union's executions falls short. While it allows interaction with up to 4 friends, it's limited in scope. Advancing the story together is off limits, rendering the feature somewhat pointless. In our redesign, we'll be opting for a simpler approach, focusing on enhancing the single-player experience, while preserving the essence of multiplayer engagement. Don't worry, you'll still be able to do raids together just like in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And yet, trading and battling is no-brainer. But who knows, maybe we could save Club Union for a side mode of sorts. Anyway, let's forget about the convoluted practice of releasing 2 versions of the same game. We are embracing the unity of a single game version. No more version exclusives. Instead, the diverse wilderness and unpredictable encounters will become the breeding grounds for trading opportunities. Of course, a revamped global trade system, the GTS, will find its place in our Pokémon world, providing a hub for trading and connecting players globally. But let's not forget the thrill of the battle. Alongside the GTS, just imagine a bustling facility where players can set up their own online tournaments, mirroring the tourney mode from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with fantastic prizes for the victorious trainers, making battles even more exciting.
This redesign aims to create a Pokémon experience that not only celebrates its social roots, but also adapts it to modern expectations and fosters a more intricate single-player experience. Graphics, while the least critical aspect of our dream Pokémon game, should not be overlooked.
With Scarlet and Violet, Game Freak took a swing at a more quote-unquote realistic approach, attempting to capture the magic of the new Pokémon Snap. But for fuck's sake, it runs like a stop-motion picture. Now, in this dream pitch, I'm taking inspiration from games that nail the graphical style and it could apply wonderfully to Pokémon. All Nintendo Switch titles, by the way. First up, we got Dragon Quest XI, a game that seamlessly blends realistic textures with cel shading, creating a gorgeous visual feast. This results in a breathtaking visual experience that strikes a harmonious balance between detail and whimsy. I have no idea how they got this up and running on the Switch hardware, but I digress. Next is Trials of Mana, which leans way more into cel shading, embracing the anime aesthetic that could beautifully capture the essence of the Pokémon universe. The same can be said about the detailed and yet vibrant world of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, showcasing how an anime art style in 3D can create a visual captivating environment. And of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, an already timeless classic that uses completely cel shading for characters while employing a detailed lighting for the environment. This combination gives it a visually appealing aesthetic while also enhancing readability, a crucial factor in an expensive and immersive game, especially for Pokémon where so many things can be on screen at the same time.
However, performance should be the top priority, even if graphical fidelity has to take a hit for it. But I'm not entirely sure on it yet. It could go a lot of different ways in terms of graphics. and I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter. So leave a comment down below saying what sort of graphic do you think the ultimate Pokemon game should have. Since I'm the one selling you this crazy concept of a game, let's dive in some story bits. But just the opening hours, I will leave the juicy stuff for your own imagination. Our game's region will be inspired by South and Central America, and that's where I'm from, so I'm most used to it naturally. But it's not just about me though. This place offers a crazy mix of different climates. Think about lush jungles, beautiful beaches, deserts, and even snow in some areas. We've got small towns, bustling cities, there's everything. Also, in the lore of the games, this is the place where Mew was first discovered. So why not toss that into our plot? And to spice things up a little bit, let's throw in some Inca ruins for that extra flair. And I'm shooting for that OG Pokemon Game Boy vibe, but I'll be turning the maturity up just a smidge. Nothing M-rated or anything, just a little bit.
I was thinking about the typical Pokemon game start. You know, the one where you wake up in your house, all set for adventure. Let's be real, it's kinda boring. The slow pace and the text-heavy tutorials, it's a bit too much. Sure, waking up at the beginning works, like in Breath of the Wild, but there's a catch. As Link wakes up in a mysterious place, clueless, with intrigue in there to keep us hooked. So, how about we borrow a page from Skyrim instead and start the player already in the middle of the action? Let's say your journey begins with a cutscene where you, the player, is in a bus or a van going down a mountain with two other people and the Pokemon professor of the region on the way to their lab. The professor throws some questions your way and you know it, it's character customization time. Now let me introduce you to the crew. One is the professor assistant, super into studying Pokemon, and the other is a trainer wanting to be a champion. They are friendly towards you at first, but will eventually become more antagonistic as they get frustrated after losing and losing to you several times. They are your rival. The bus journey is all nice and dandy until it suddenly screeches to a halt. Shadows dancing around, things getting a bit sketchy. The professor tells you to keep cool as they step out to check the situation. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, boom! An explosion rocks the bus, probably from some electrode gone haywire. Already setting the stage that Pokemon can be used for more than just battling. They can be tools of evil as well. This scene fades to black and the next thing you know, you wake up in a cave down the mountain. The bus wrecked. You and the gang miraculously intact. Just a few scratches to show for the wild ride. Now the professor assistant spills the beans. A bag with some Pokeballs and Pokemon was on the bus with you. They managed to grab the bag, but the Pokemon made a break for it during the crash. The assistant hands you some Pokeballs and urges you to track down those Pokemon before leaving the cave. We are talking about the starter Pokemon, of course. Now you finally have control over the player character, and you can start exploring around the cave with the professor assistants blocking the way out. The cave sprawls out, somewhat linear, giving you enough room to get the hang of the controls and movement. Decoration line the walls, inscription about some mythical Pokemon, but nothing noteworthy at this moment. And the starters? Oh, they're hanging out in different spots. The fire starter is chilling by a rocky area, the water starter is lounging by a small pond, and the grass starter is in a grassy area where some light is coming through the ceiling. Once you've rounded up all three, it's back to the assistant. And decision time, each of you gets a Pokemon for a safe journey to the professor's lab. Make your choice. Oh, and as a bonus, the assistant tosses a Pokédex, found in the bag with the Pokemon. This handy device will be your guide, showing the map, nearby events, quest markers, and all that jazz. A quest mark pops up nearby in a city, the location of the professor's lab. But hey, you are free to go wherever you want now. You've already got everything you need to kick off your journey, and following the quest mark will just nudge the plot forward. If you decide to stick to the main story, you will soon discover that those shady folks were after a Mew fossil in the bag the assistant had, which, surprise surprise, belonged to the professor. The professor managed to dash back to the lab once the bad guys realized they got a wrong lead, but the mystery of why they were hunting for a Mew still remains unsolved. And there you have it, the opening hours of the game. But don't pack your bags just yet, I've got more in store for the journey. For instance, the main story won't tangle with any legendary Pokémon. Sure, the evil team is on the hunt for a meal, but they never strike gold. You, on the other hand, might just stumble upon some legends naturally during your adventure. It's just like the vibes from the first two generations, where legendary Pokémon were more like background elements, not the main act. And I'm all for offering players some sweet side stories. Think of Skyrim's Thieves Guild or Dark Brotherhood, but Pokémon style. Maybe a full-fledged side story all about Pokémon contests, that would be nice. Or hey, even a path where you can throw in your lot with the evil team. As for the plot, that's all I've got for now, but remember, this story can take a million different forms. And this is just one example that I came up with to show you what I meant.
So, there is my pitch for my perfect Pokémon game. I've spoke my heart about the battle mechanics, the Pokémon, the world, and everything else. But you know what hit me? The realization that most of the things I talked about saw the light of day one way or the other in the games already. It's not that the ideas are lacking, it's just that the relentless release of Pokémon games year after year is definitely hurting the franchise. Great concepts as those in Pokémon Legends Arceus don't get the time to shine in the next releases, because there's simply no time to implement them. I think that is because despite Pokémon being this colossal juggernaut, it is still the games that are pulling the weight. Just let the games be games first and a franchise later. But hey, that's just a dream. A wild one maybe, yet dreams are where great things often begin. Even if reality doesn't quite catch up, dreaming is a journey in itself. And I really hope you liked going this journey with me. I've been Pedro from Nintendo, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye! Oh, and by the way, I didn't talk about the soundtrack because they nail it down almost every time. I swear to God, Pokémon is more similar to Sonic than we realize.